Good afternoon. There's a feeling in America that politicians have not got the concerns of the older generation very high on their agenda. So third wavers have decided to join together to campaign and demand a few rights that they think they deserve. I know it's a rather irritating idea that what happens in America today happens in Britain tomorrow. But on that premise, let's have a look at this film, Seniors Power, before we discuss in the studio what sort of action is taking place here.
I can't get by doing anything serious. The first time I met Pat, I was a chapter president.
First of all, I think the American Association of Retired Persons is unique in that it is a volunteer organization devoted to basically community service. The organization was formed in 1958. We now have approximately 34 million national members. The work in the field in the states is done by volunteers. We have approximately 400,000 volunteers in the United States who carry out the purposes of the association. We are supported by approximately 1,600 staff. We accomplish the purpose of enhancing the quality of life for older persons, promoting independence, dignity, and purpose for older persons. We take the lead in determining the role of older persons in society and improving the image of aging. And we consider that we are the spokesperson for the seniors, whether it deals with their health, whether it deals with teaching them to be a better driver, whether it deals with their taxes, whether it improves the quality of life for elderly women.
We are nonpartisan. We make no contributions to any political candidates. But what we do is that we go to each of these candidates, in addition to telling our voters how we stand on the issues that they're very interested in. We go to these candidates and we ask them a series of questions on long-term care, on housing, on their position on Social Security, and we get their answers and we publish them in voters' guides and in newspaper articles and so on, so that all the people who make policy in this country are very much aware of where AARP stands on the issues which are vital to our senior citizens. And I think we are very highly respected in Congress. I never think of it as power. I think of it as ability to present a position which AARP has approved. And of course the congressman may in his own mind think, well, AARP has 50,000 members in my congressional district and their opinion has some merit. And another thing you have to remember is that senior citizens as a group have the highest percentage of voter turnout probably of any group in the country. And that's very important to the legislators to know that the people that are in AARP, when they go to vote, they go to vote in numbers.
And the Amherst Foundation has been one of the leading supports in this field. Because I really appreciated it when I was a professional in the aging services for 11 years, some of the reports that they issued. This year, their funding and grant program has done what AARP is doing. In other words, it's looking both inward and outward.
I don't think you can really say that AARP is solely dedicated to issues involving older Americans. because we are involved in what we call an intergenerational program, where our volunteers work with underprivileged children. They work with handicapped children. They act as tutors. So you can't, basically we are a senior organization, however we're intergenerational. We are talking not just for seniors, we are talking for every single individual in the United States of America.
A faith in God is always near and given me the greatest gift of all, loving friends with love so dear who have helped me stand straight and tall. The love of all.
One of our major concerns is that we have approximately 37 million people in America who have no health insurance of any kind whatsoever. Some of these, and in fact I think the majority of them, are employed. They may have 4 or 5 children, they may be 25, 35 years old, but they cannot afford the health insurance premiums. Therefore, they have no health insurance. And the last count, I think, was about 37 million people in the United States. AARP hopes to accomplish, through health care reform, ensuring that all people in the United States will have access to affordable, quality health care.
The donations for the seniors is not enough because the seniors they built the United States. And we're almost like letting them down because, once they get old, that's it. And I feel like if we had more money coming in, we can get more staff on board, and then we can fulfill the needs of my homebound. Because when I go out to my homebound, they're clients that probably never see anyone but me or the mailman. And I like to spend more time with them to make them feel more like they haven't been forgotten.
We have some horror stories involved with that. Some real horror stories. We have people who do not have adequate medical care simply because Pat was mentioning some of that earlier. If you don't have the money, you don't go. If you're not insured, so you don't take medication. We have people who find themselves in a critical medical condition simply because they could not afford the proper attention at the time when it should have been given. So they exacerbate the condition and worsen. And so as a result, they become a medical ward of the state, where this could have been prevented.
One of AARP's most important aims is to help people maintain the quality of their lives, to maintain an independence in their own homes as long as possible, and to keep them out of nursing homes and other types of institutions. Many people who are newly widowed cannot deal with the grief, the financial aspects, the entire changes in their lives, and we have people who can help do advice. There are many people who are widowed and just cannot cope with the whole financial structure or with the legal requirements. And we have programs where we have experts who can come in and offer assistance in those areas. We also have an interreligious liaison program where we try to get the various religious organizations in a community to come together to provide needed community services for seniors.
It's a business, but it's a business which is to provide a service. It's a business with a heart, and I think that's important. And I'm proud of that policy. We put out about 800 titles in publications. 800 titles. They pay a certain amount of money to cover the costs, but we subsidize that. These publications are terrific, absolutely terrific. They're definitive. They're they're understandable, and they meet a need. And they're geared for seniors. Of course we have a gigantic account, and we use it. And we use it. Why not? If we can get better things for our people, if we can get the insurance industry to realize that they can do this, well, pretty soon, what will happen is the entire industry will come along with the innovative programs that were created for AARP. They'll come along in order to be competitive. And then all seniors, even those who are not members, will be better served.
I want to thank each and every one of the volunteers who have helped me along the way. I really appreciate your dedication, your support.
Some of the emotional issues that our membership has in terms of being seniors and contributing to the society and maybe wanting to do a second career and all that, I'm sure is mirrored in England amongst your seniors. And I hope that they will have, through their own means and their own resources, the ability to create a similar association to serve themselves.
Faces on recruiting posters and never look as it is. They trudged back to their families with the tears and worried glances. Was there anything but bullets and the mustard gas had missed? They saw death making headlines and killing making movies. As if nothing might have happened that made anything at all. And now lonely in the twilight, moving out across the ocean.
The Grey Panthers of Berkeley are now
almost 20 years old.
Almost 20 years old. And the whole Grey Panther movement started by a person called Maggie Kuhn, who, when she was 65 years old, she had to quit her job because of her age.
As a social worker.
And she felt that she was able to continue, and she started the Grey Panthers, and their first fight was against ageism. That means that people should be able to work as long as they are capable and they can do a job, and there shouldn't be any age limit.
Her theory was that people should not be judged by their chronological age, but by their ability to perform, their interest in their work, and their commitment to it. And she interested other persons who were about her age and who had similar ideas.
And she felt, as I guess the majority of American people do, that ageism was a social disease like sexism or racism, that kind of thing. And she was right.
Yeah, we remember Vietnam and so on. Again, you just coming back every day.
There had to be new ways of looking at old age that lots of people felt denigrated by ways in which they were treated as an old person. And so by joining together, people could take actions which would ameliorate some of the problems. One of the things that's characteristic of Grey Panthers is that they believe in forming coalitions, in forming networks. They feel that in that way you strengthen the ability to bring about social change.
Yes, I just met him in front of 1182, but I'm happy to meet him.
And we are taking stands on initiatives that are on the ballot, which are concerning not only the elderly, but children, homeless. We are very much involved in the social activities of the community. We have people volunteering in homeless shelters. We have some of our people tutoring children in schools.
This afternoon, again, be careful with fires.
People that's working in it, and them volunteers, like myself, my wife, and others, you know, especially on the nutrition program. Well, the nutrition program is an organization, part of the neighborhood house organization that they furnish food for the elderly for $1 a meal. And it gives them a pretty good meal. It's well cooked. It's supervised by medical people, and they give it a pretty good supervision for it. And it's good. It's really good. I enjoy it.
That was before you took.
No, two cookies. And give me some more, because they're supposed to have 2 each.
The seniors, the problem they face mostly is inability to continue to learn and grow with society. Some feel that they've gotten too old to change or too old to learn more. Most don't believe that they can improve themselves. And through these classes, we show that they can learn. There's much more to learn. They can improve, they can change, they can adjust. In one of my classes, I mentioned that there are people that's been out on the street and their greatest fear is to, they don't want to go back out there again. I hope I don't have to go back out on the street again. And because they didn't have enough food and no shelter, and they was just really devastated by that. But now they're in board and care where they get income each month, SSI, and they're very comfortable, you can imagine, from being out on the street. And so for the future, I don't know. They are trying to provide shelters for them, and some are in shelters, but it's not a lasting thing. They don't know how long they'll be there. They're sheltered a while, and then again, they're back out on the street and sleep in the parks and different areas.
This country is the only country in the so-called industrialized world, other than South Africa, which does not have its own national health program, which is healthcare, I think, is a basic human right. People should not have to suffer simply because they don't have the economic circumstances to make it possible to have good health care. And the Grey Panthers very early took on this as an important political activity.
Maggie Kuhn set as the motto for the Grey Panthers, age and youth in action. That is the motto. And we need implementation of that here. Particularly, this is true in terms of the environmental movement and the pro-choice movement, which are two of the hottest issues during the 90s in the United States. We believe that by working with people in those movements and encouraging them to help us with our health and housing issues for seniors and for the homeless, that we will be able to both inseminate our own ideas and theirs, and to become much more effective than we have even so far been in affecting change in Berkeley and perhaps even beyond Berkeley in California.
I think it can improve the lives of older people because so much in the world makes older people feel that in many ways they're cast off, and because they don't produce something, they're no longer useful.